Caitlin and I are excited tonight to do a co-host episode. Me and Coach Caitlin are on the air tonight. Yes, Coach K. We just recently had her on from the More Than a Player episode. Coach K, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm glad to have you finally, man. We've been trying to track you down forever. You're part of the staff, and you've been out here buzzing around the world doing tournaments and doing all this stuff for the kids. How was your week so far?
I know the week's been great so far. My girls are 2 practices into this week. We got our third on Saturday. We're looking for a bounce back week going into our next tournament. We got 2 weeks off. We're just gonna practice hard and get ready to go for our next showcase.
Doesn't it feel like 2 weeks off in softball is like a year off in real life? Doesn't it feel like that?
Oh, absolutely. But you're never actually off from softball.
Right. You had a lot going on. Just celebrated your big 2-5, by the way. Congrats. Happy birthday. So
I did. Thank you.
I remember when I got my Jordans 25 years ago. I'm just kidding. So Caitlin, like I said, we've been talking about this for a while. Dane and I, and Joe, the staff. I'm glad to have you in this episode and many more to come. Caitlin, tonight was a great night to launch someone very near and dear to us. I listen to this guy all the time, watched him in his Dynamo days, all the way through what he's doing now with Soccer Matters. He's on ESPN, calls the games for Dynamos. Everybody knows the living legend himself, Glenn Davis. And we finally had the privilege of tracking him down and getting him on the show. So without wasting any more time, we are blessed to bring on the one and only Glenn Davis. Glenn, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. I am living. I'm not sure I'm a legend, but I am living. I can assure you that.
Man. Glenn, we're soccer fanatics, man. So I tell you what, you're definitely a legend in the soccer world and everywhere else. So thanks for coming on. Caitlin and I, Glenn, have some questions for you that we've been cultivating with the audience over the years. We want to run past you, just kind of pick your brain as far as you as an analyst, as a player, just a great human being. Some questions that we feel like are relevant to you as a person. Okay. So
you bet. Fire away.
So Glenn, first question, and Caitlin and I will bounce back and forth on this. Obviously, with your broadcasting career and a great soccer player, for a moment, take me back into the world of when you began playing soccer. Obviously, I've watched what you've done with the Dynamo early on in your great career. When did you, in your life, get the itch to start playing soccer? When did that happen?
Growing up in New Jersey was a great soccer state. A lot of the ethnic areas back when I was growing up, the game was in the suburbs, but the game wasn't really understood and played well in the suburbs. It was really around ethnic areas, cities like Kearney, New Jersey, Bayonne. Trenton had great soccer in that city. And I just had the good fortune of crossing paths with a Scottish coach from Kearney named Tom McDonald, me and all my little buddies in New Jersey. And he basically took us from 10 years old to 18. A number of us ended up playing pro, came out to our town. He coached us 3-4 nights a week.
Wow.
Just a heavy influence. Taught us how to play the game correctly, respected nurturing the ball and having the ball. Then we had the New York Cosmos. Then I had a brother, in Pelé and all the big stars, 25 minutes from my house to go watch those games. And then my brother was a college All-American goalkeeper and was drafted in the North American Soccer League as well. So had a lot of great influences. My first ever soccer camp, my 2 Italian buddies who lived on my street, the Torsiglieris, took me to this camp. And I never forget, on a break, we're looking at a screen in black and white of World Cup footage of like Eusebio of Portugal. So a lot of little things came together, but wonderful upbringing in the game. And, my youth coach just had so much influence on me. And that's probably one that Caitlin really connects with as a softball coach as well. The influence and mentorship and that the coach can have is pretty remarkable.
So you're surrounded. Caitlin, go ahead, Caitlin. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's actually something that, grabbed my attention immediately. That's something that I spoke a lot about on my segment of the show. It's just the impact that a youth coach can have. And it's awesome hearing from you being a legend and being able to cite back that time where, that youth coach made that impact and you remember it to this day. And I also have to note that I love that we have a Jersey legend here. I'm from New Jersey myself.
Oh, where?
I'm from Deptford, New Jersey, kind of Cherry Hill, right outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, a lot of good soccer down in Deptford. I know that.
Oh, yes.
And probably softball, right?
So, and I think Caitlin, when we're talking about that, Caitlin, it's spot on. When I look at Glenn, obviously your body of work, you're just surrounded by these influences, and not who would have thought in the years ahead what you've done with the Dynamo, calling games, calling World Cups. Like, you're in that same breath now, Glenn. I know you probably are too modest to say it, but you mentioned the Pelés. In that same breath here where we look at soccer, we can also throw the Glenn Davis name into that as well. I mean, you're still going. And again, your podcast every day, I'm like, how does he make hundreds of episodes sound so good? And I'm like, I listen to you for ideas, and you transition right over to the broadcast side. That's where Caitlin kind of comes in for question 2 and just keep picking up right where you left off, So.
So I got to ask you, Glenn, coming off of the pitch, what made you decide to go into broadcasting? What was kind of that itch that pushed you in that direction?
So, when I was playing in the 80s, there wasn't the money in it. You're playing in NFL stadiums, high school stadiums. It's totally different now with the infrastructure. And, you both see these beautiful stadiums that are scattered across America. They're just remarkable. And the game's so elevated. There's so much more investment in it. It's different the way players train. It's different, the medical. It's different. Everything's different. Okay. But look, it's just what was there at the time. And there were a lot of players that I played with and against that played in World Cups and things. But my initial, when I was done, I loved the sport so much that I wanted to remain in it. And really the only thing you could do back then was coach. And honestly, the model of professional coaching, which I assume you're doing with softball, and the club setup, the model of the club and the paid club model, it was not there. It was only beginning. And I kind of got in on the wave of that because that was my only choice was to coach. And then I realized, wow, I really love working with kids, and I'm just basically copying what my coach did with me. Now I'm trying to put a little bit of my touch into it. I'm going to get my coaching licenses, but I'm just living for setting up my practice sessions and then going out to the field and finding the right balance of free play and instruction and all that. So I started a youth club for 11, 12 years, did that 13 years. And, we had some guys end up in MLS, some played in Europe, a lot of college kids. But the most rewarding thing is that when I go to the stadium now, some of these kids who I remember at 10 and 11 years of age are there with their families. They're coaching their kids now. And, the whole pay it forward thing is going on. There's nothing more satisfying than that, I can tell you. Then I got to break into broadcasting in 1994. 27 years later, called 7 or 8 World Cups, both men and women, Olympics, gone to foreign countries, Germany, England, all the Central American countries, Mexico to call games. So I don't look back too much, but I kind of pinch myself. Television and radio has changed a lot since I got into it, a lot of different changes. You're doing a lot of stuff out of studios now to save money. So that's just kind of a Cliff Notes version of how I got to where I am and where I am now. And, I started radio on public radio because I was just sick and tired of soccer coverage,
Yeah, man. And that's where I come in. I look at the third question. Obviously your influence and your range. And I mean it, I mean this. There's not a more authoritative voice and present day soccer than you. Even when we began talking a while back, there has to be as much presence as you brought to the game and the knowledge. You could break down plays. You can also talk about player background, right? You could talk about, just the entire money structure. I listen to you, and every episode's different. Where did you get this influence from? Obviously, you've done it so well for so long, and we look at you as being that. We look at you. Who did you look to? Who was your influence to be a broadcaster, or a player? I know you talked about some of your coaches, but as you went into broadcasting, who's been your biggest influence on you?
There's been a lot of great broadcasters before me, and producers too, by the way, that encouraged me and gave me opportunity. I mean, none of this happens without other people helping you. And, I was fortunate, I think, in a way, because I didn't time my professional soccer playing career right, but I think I did time the TV and radio stuff because it was really wide open. There wasn't a lot of coverage, and you had to walk into a radio station mainstream after doing it on public radio and kind of getting some basics down and learning it. And you had to go in there and you had to talk to people that really didn't give a what about soccer
Yeah.
and that type of coverage. And they don't think it's going to be saleable, and you got to convince them it is. And the only way you can convince them, and this was my conversation, hey, I want to do a soccer show on your station. Hey, that's great. I know who you are. I've seen you on TV, but we don't think it'll work. And then I finally figured it out and said, well, I got $20,000. Guy looks at me and goes, you got a soccer show. So, as much as you have the passion, you have to figure out the kind of the business side of it. I think I've been pretty good at that. I don't know if I've been great at it. I'm definitely not great at getting my product out. I think I could be better at that. I bet you guys could probably teach me a lot.
Oh man.
But I just had this genuine passion for the game that was passed on to me through watching it, through people that taught me it, through my brother. I mean, my father was a big influence. He wasn't a soccer guy, but he was an athlete. He fell in love with the game and never played it. He absolutely fell in love with the game of soccer through his kids, which is a very common thing in the United States, right? Now you got kids that have played the game at high levels and have the knowledge about it. But that's really kind of how it worked for me. And JP Telecamera is a great friend of mine. I mean, he was calling games before me.
I love it.
There's just a bunch of names. I don't want to omit anybody, but there were a lot of producers, that were great. I liked Martin Tyler for his way of calling a game in England, because it wasn't about word to word, wall to wall word, calling a game. And again, I started as an analyst, and I had the beauty of, all the youth coaching. So, what does an analyst do? An analyst tells you how and why things happen. They're not telling you I think we have analysts now that have got to start, they have to start going out on a limb a little bit more, not being afraid to be critical in a very professional and fair way.
Right.
Because if you're staying general and it's not appealing,
there's no meat and potatoes to it.
You have to be able to not be afraid to go out there on a limb a little bit. And then I transition into play-by-play, because now I'm thinking, okay, I realize the Lawlesses of the world and these guys are going to get all the color jobs. So I'm gonna learn play-by-play, and I'm gonna be an ex-professional soccer player, and I'm gonna be able to set up my analysts better. That was my thinking. So that's kind of how it all worked for me. And then I branched out into, hey, let's do radio talk. I did post-game call-in shows that were fun with people who were getting in their cars, leaving the stadium. So it was just trying to be creative a little bit too.
That's so. I think about. I remember this moment. I've listened to you ever since I had Spotify, so it's been a while. What got us into soccer? Because we look at it this way. Caitlin and I both agree on this. Our kids play all sports, right? Softball is kind of our main championship. That's our main vein, but we also are very big on multi-sports. And it was a take. It was a while back. I can't remember the episode, Glenn, but you made a take one time about multi-sport athletes. It was just a take, right? I'm like, man, it just stood out to me, and that's what made me actually start listening to you on a regular basis. This mindset that, hey, sometimes you got to tell the kids maybe, or the player, it's not the right fit. And you had the guts to kind of say that, like in a respectful way. Maybe we have to have that conversation, that maybe that's why you go try other sports. And that just stuck with me for so long, that your way of calling things, it's very pleasant, it's polite, but it's also direct, right? Let's call a spade what it is. Let's talk about it, right?
Yeah, I always felt that, and I'm sure Caitlin feels the same way. You have to be honest, even with youth players. Yep. I have no problem with youth players. If they're not allowed to try other sports, how do they know what they like? Right. I mean,
right.
And the other thing is, I look at a youth soccer community now. There is so much money changing hands. It's so different than when I was out there. And, a lot of the selling, and we're the pathway to the pros, and, you'll get a college scholarship. I think a lot of it's a little deceitful. I don't think it's upfront. I don't think it's right. And I know not everybody does it like that, but it has gotten so competitive for the money that's involved and the revenue that, there are people making these claims that are absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, I don't even know how they do it personally.
Yeah. Man, that's like I said, that's why we love your take, Glenn, because again, it's also it's direct, but it's also not like you do it in a tactful way. And I love that you have that blend of you can say what needs to be said, but it's also not where we can take it, like take the medicine with the sugar, right? I love it. So that actually brings me to my next question, Caitlin. You take that one. That's yours on forward, Caitlin, if you will. So
absolutely. So obviously, we just heard a lot about your journey throughout the years and how you got to where you are now in the present, but so we're halfway through 2023. What's next for the rest of the year?
Yeah. So, the TV business is changing. I've switched over to doing radio now, which, the local call is something you can pick up on Apple TV when it comes to Major League Soccer. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of college soccer. For many years, I've done the national championships, both men and women's. I'm not really doing that quite as much anymore. And it's a changing industry. Maybe I'm getting on the backside of the career, no question, but I think I still have a lot to give. But I'll do college soccer. I'll do MLS. I would like to get back into do more of the foreign stuff. And I'm really kind of open even to maybe, who knows, maybe there's a way to call games in a foreign country, maybe go to Australia and call the Australian League, or
I love it.
Create a different podcast. But the world's the oyster. You navigate things when things change. The business, as you guys know, is ups and downs. I've had as many no's as I've had yeses. And you have to be resilient and believe in your talents. But I think if you're passionate about what you do, you're incrementally increase your chances so much more. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you do and have fun. I just did an hour live radio and then went into some taped interviews, and I'm talking to a great journalist in Barcelona today. I'm talking to a guy who played for Celtic, and it's just, honestly, it's so much fun. But you do have to navigate, and things do change, and the hiring process changes, and you can sit here and go, oh, it's not fair all the time. That's life. Life's not fair.
I think
you just got to figure out a new plan of action.
Yeah. So I love how, I think that's about the third time that you, throughout this interview, that you said the word passion. And, it's crazy what passion can do for a person when you truly find what it is that kind of fires you up inside. So I think once you have passion, there really, truly is like no limit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Agree 100%.
Caitlin. So I love it about Caitlin, because Glenn, I'll say like 50 words, she'll say 5, and it sounds more cool. She's like spot on, right? So now, Glenn, I will tell you, man. So it sounds like, by the way, I watch all of the games on Apple TV. I was like, I subscribe to it. Like I said, you got me. You reinvigorated my passion for soccer. So I watch all the games. I think you do a great job. I really try to imitate you, because what we do is in our leagues too. We call games around Kansas. We do a lot of local youth sports and all that. So I'm trying to get that Glenn voice down. I'm working on it. I need about 5 more years, and I think I got you. So here in about 5 years, I'll be able to clone you. So, but until then,
I don't have a voice right now, so don't copy anything.
I'm just kidding, man. All out of love. So Caitlin and I, we do a little segment, Glenn. This is a non-sports segment. I'll get you a little breather. We do a little segment. It's called Rapid Fire. We bet on this every single episode. The audience loves this. And what this is, it's totally a different path, not sports. It's personality questions about you. Just fun, silly stuff that we bet on. Caitlin and I bet, and Dane, whoever wins gets lunch provided by the loser. Okay. So. Okay.
Good.
So don't let me down. Don't let me down. But I'm looking for Olive Garden on this one, Caitlin.
I hope
I
answered right for Caitlin. Let's see.
This is my first one. I'm taking home the gold.
Your first rapid fire. So do you have your picks, Caitlin, for those questions? You ready to go?
I do. Of course, I'm ready.
Okay. So first question, because I know a little bit about your style, and you have a really cool style about you. That kind of that cool Grease style about you. So if you're picking who's a better actor, or a cooler actor, are we going with the Hasselhoff or James Dean?
Well, some people have said I look like Hasselhoff, and I know he's had a great career and he was a singer too. But you got to go with James Dean. There's no question.
Dang. Okay.
You got that one wrong, Caitlin. You let me down
there. We both. Did you have the Hoff too, Caitlin?
I did have the Hoff. I did.
Listen, okay. I love the Hoff, but maybe it's because you guys are younger and you don't know as much about the James Dean lore, and maybe you didn't watch movies. But listen, Hasselhoff had a huge following worldwide, so he's not a slouch. We know that.
So So I'm 0 for 1. Caitlin, I better get my breadsticks with this. No, next question. So you're jamming, Glenn. You just left the show. You just left calling the Dynamos game, driving home, clearing your head, need to rock out for a little bit. Are we going with REO Speedwagon or Foreigner?
Oh, clearly Foreigner.
Gosh, darn it. I am 0 for 2.
Season.
Did you have that one,
back
Caitlin?
with that one. I did have that one.
So you're ahead of me. Okay. So you got me on that one. Okay. So next question. So this is my favorite one. So you're walking outside, Glenn, it's late at night, you're letting the dog out to go to the restroom, and someone tells you they see this. What's more likely that you're going to believe? Someone seeing a Bigfoot sighting or an alien sighting?
I'm going to go with alien sighting. I just can't believe in this entire solar system that we're the only place where there's human life.
I am 1 for 3. Caitlin, did you get that one?
2
Caitlin?
for 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, man, this is messed up. Okay,
Actually,
so next one.
It would either be a criminal or a coyote.
I love it. I love it. So next one. So in the year 2035, Glenn. So we're shooting ahead a little bit. When the Glenn Davis movie comes out, the American icon, as we're calling it right now, they're gonna have 2 actors that play you. They're gonna have an actor that plays Glenn Davis. Who's gonna play you? Is it gonna be A, Dennis Quaid, or B, David Spade?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I would have probably. I think I'm going to go Dennis Quaid because he's got Texas roots. Dennis
I love
Quaid.
it. Bounce it back. I'm 500 right now, Caitlin.
That's 3 for me. 3 for me.
Okay. So last one. So Caitlin, you're at 3. I'm at 2. So we can tie it here. You got me, Glenn. If you answer this one right, you can save me, so I don't have to buy your lunch. So Glenn, let's take you back. We're going to take a pause in time, and we're going to act like time was not relevant. You're at your 5th grade spelling bee. Okay. 5th grade spelling bee. You're going for the championship in 5th grade, and one of these 2 gentlemen get to call the spelling bee for you, play by play. Are you going with Joe Buck or Harry Carey?
Harry Carey, I'm going with. I'm going nostalgia. I'm going old school.
I got it. Carey, would you have, Caitlin? I'm 3 for 3. Would you, 3 for 5?
I had to go with Carey. Sorry to let you down there.
Okay. Well, Caitlin, you took that one. So you went 4 out of 5. You got an 800. You're batting 800. So I owe you lunch.
It was a rough start.
I'll send you some Taco Bell tomorrow, Caitlin.
That's my favorite. How'd you know?
I love it. So Joe, Glenn, thank you for that. It's just a little segment we do called Rapid Fire. So I appreciate that.
That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I'll give the last segment to Caitlin here for the final question. So.
Yeah, so as we're wrapping up, Glenn, this is kind of a time where we want to be able to give you an open mic. We want to give you the opportunity to share any pieces of advice that you might have gained along the way that, could maybe help somebody else that might be chasing their dreams, whether, it's a youth kid or a teenager, young adult, watching tonight's episode, as well as maybe any inspiration or mantras or just any words from the wise that you got for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to have a work ethic. You have to have passion. As you mentioned, Caitlin, I used that word a few times here tonight. I think loving what you do is really important. In the beginning, it's not necessarily about the money. It's about laying the foundation for what you want to do in the future. I mean, if you want me to speak specifically to broadcasting, work ethic, research, homework, enjoying the process. I love the process of preparing for a game just as much as actually calling it, to be honest with you. Maybe not as much, but close, because then when you go there prepared, you've spoken to coaches, you've watched film and prior, it's not film anymore. You've watched prior games. Mm-hmm. You've read up on things. You've looked for tendencies in the games that teams have. But, as far as being a broadcaster, I think being yourself is really important, not trying to be somebody else. If you're trying to be on TV because you want to be a celebrity or a star, you can kiss it goodbye. That shouldn't be your prime motivation. Mm-hmm. But work ethic, get advice from people. I get lots of inquiries, even during the week. Every week I'll get at least 1 or 2, or 1, but a lot of times 2 and 3 about kids, that are in college and in broadcasting school, or they want to do play-by-play one day. And, it's just about getting as much experiences as you can at an early age. I work with a lot of the interns here, and they're all good and they're all ambitious. It's important for people like me to pass it forward because people did nice things for me. So it's really a pretty simple theory. You should be able to help other people.
I think that because it's broadcasting, Caitlin, you're right. And it's also your athletic career and just all around being a go-getter, right? Because we have kids that maybe they'll play till they're 18, soccer, softball, maybe they'll go on to college, maybe they won't. We think about passion goes into the workforce. Maybe you're going to be a lawyer, maybe you're going to be a police officer, maybe you're going to be a doctor, maybe you're going to play pro sports, maybe you're going to be in broadcasting. I think you hit it right that whatever you do, lay the foundation, pay it forward, have that passion, and lay the groundwork. Maybe I'm doing this stuff at a young age, so I'm prepared for when I'm older. I have that foundation, and that's kind of what drew us to you. Is whether it's a broadcasting side or athletic side. To be honest, out of all that, which I love that you got to call those World Cup games and just international games. What to me stood out the most, and Caitlin could probably agree, I love that you mentioned how much you spent time with the youth. That to me is like that's the pay it forward that stands out to me. Caitlin, would you agree on that? Or
yeah, and definitely coming from the younger generation as well. I know coming from myself being a young coach in the field as well as, emerging in the sports psychology field, like I have so much gratitude for those that are well seasoned or well experienced in the fields that I'm emerging into and that are so willing to help out and spread the knowledge and, view it as not as competition, but as, just like a friendly extension of a hand and just say, hey, let me help guide you along this journey, especially someone being in their mid-20s like me. I love that you're able to
There's plenty of people out there, though. I don't want you to think I'm rare. There's plenty of people out there that are willing, I think, if you find them, to pass the advice on, because I mean that actually rounds me as a broadcaster and as a person. I mean, what's the point of not helping others? I mean, when somebody's done it for you. I mean, if you're not willing to do that, then wow, you really missed the memo early on with all the people that were helping you, right? So it's not hard. I mean, I definitely wanted a career in soccer, and it started at a point where there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And now you think of the opportunity that's out there in management. An ex-pro now can go into management. They can go into the competitive side and be a part of academies now. They can go into media. They can go into sales, marketing. They can try to be a general manager. I mean, the amount of jobs that are out there now and opportunity is unbelievable. And we're not just talking the pro game. We're talking the college game, the youth game. Look, we talk MLS and NWSL, but there are leagues below that are doing amazing jobs and giving people amazing opportunity in the USL Championship and USL 2. So, for me to see where it's come is amazing. I mean, it was never an object to me, the money side of it. That's completely different now. And then, one day I was 37, 38, and it's like, I probably need to make a little bit of money, at some point. But coaching was just such a passion for me, and it really was a perfect segue into the broadcasting field.
I think, Glenn, there's a couple people when I look at this, and you're right. I look at you, Lloyd Yaxley from KC Current. We've had several interactions with Brody from FC Gotham. I love it that it's this umbrella of paying it forward. I love it. So I think you're spot on, man. What we always say, Caitlin and I and Dan and Joe, we always say the next generation of athletes in general, sports, whether it be basketball, football, female and male, soccer, anything, it's in good hands. We have people that have taught us and they continue to be at the top of their game. We're in good hands. So I think it's been our absolute privilege. Glenn, I know you came off of a nice shift and you're doing all the things that you do. So it's been our absolute privilege. Please let it be known from Dane and Caitlin and I and Joe that this is the first of many invitations. Please come back very soon. We'd love to host you again sometime because it's our absolute honor. And I can't say enough thank yous for taking time out of your day to do this. Okay. So
anytime. I really enjoyed it. It's great to meet you both.
Yes, sir.
Zoom here, and anytime you need anything from me, you let me know. Thank you so much for having me on.
We will definitely call you. Yes, we will call you up on that, Glenn. It'll be the first of many. We have some stuff lined out for the rest of this year. We have a big soccer segment that we're doing, so we want to bring you back for that. So I'll be in touch, and we'll be sure to have you back on the days ahead. Okay, so.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn. You're welcome to drop off and have a great night, man. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate you, man. So, Caitlin, I'm telling you, yes, Glenn. Thank you again. Caitlin, like I said, just a true gentleman of the sport. What do you think of him? What was your first take on Glenn? Just awesome guy, you know?
No, I thought that was awesome. And just the outlook that he had, you know, being able to stem all the way back to, like I had mentioned early on in conversation with him, is just being able to look back on his youth days and be able to see how he evolved into broadcasting from, you know, being an athlete himself to making that transition into coaching and then broadcasting. You know, it's really an incredible path that he took.
I think it's cool also, two Jersey. Who would have thought I didn't set that up or nothing, but two Jersey natives, right? It's cool. He's from your hometown and all that, and talking about his upbringing, how he learned. I like it's cool how he learned from everyone, and he took that by osmosis, took it into his athletic career. Humble guy. Didn't even talk about his many accomplishments at the Dynamo. He didn't even go there. Talked about youth sports, and that's what you're doing. Like, the highlight of what we do is youth sports, right? We're teaching the next generation, right? Would you agree? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it all begins. Honestly, It starts with youth sports. And, you know, we use that word passion, and that's where a lot of times we start to, you know, build that passion. That's when we start to feel that fire, is when we are playing as a 12, 13-year-old kid.
Man. Well, Caitlin, I think that was a great segue into the week. So thank you again. I'm glad you've been busy. Happy late birthday. So
thank you.
You're still very, very spry. I remember, like I said, when I was 25, it's great. So hope you had a good one. There's a lot of birthday treats in store for you with Dane and I and yourself and Joe. So this next 2 weeks, you guys, the weeks ahead, coming up Sunday, we've got Broderius from the Michigan Panthers Pro USFL. Our buddy Kenny Mann stopping by from Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner, baby, coming by on Sunday. Next week, I'm pretty sure we'll be Caitlin and I will be joining us again for a special. Courtney Wallace from Nebraska Cornhuskers. She's stopping by. Elite pitcher, right up your alley. Got some interviews coming up that are just downright amazing. I got some music as well. The days ahead, we've got about 40 lined out through now in August, so it's a good time frame of sports and music mix. And then, of course, we've got a little soccer segment. So I think Glenn was a great kickoff to the no pun intended, to the soccer side, you know. So
no, it was awesome. I definitely agree. Great kickoff there, and I'm excited to see, you know, what the next couple of weeks have in store.
Good. Well, on behalf of Caitlin and I and Dane and Joe, your staff here, we're glad you guys joined us tonight. Don't ever forget that we do this for you and because of you. So it's always our goal to do this and bring you the best content we can. So many more to come. Don't forget that we love you. And as always, thank you for listening.